where you tune in. And thank you for being here in this morning, if you're tuning in from Europe. This morning panel about ways to create human chemistry, senses of sharing, belonging, and the right context-friendly environment. Community is known to be one of the cores of the co-working experience. I mean, after all, it's the co before the working, but the sense of belonging can be at different level according to members, to tenants, to anybody that belongs to this community. So I'm looking forward to this talk and to chat about it for the next roughly 30 minutes. I think we have 30, 40 minutes with a fantastic panel, and I'm very proud they're all women. So with me in here this morning, we have Michala, who is the founder of Coworking Europe. Yes, I did it. So, then we have Zsofi from who is the campus manager at Talent Garden in Barcelona. I went with the Spanish pronunciation as well. And then we have Victoria from co-working community in Ukraine. And then we have Zsofi, who is the co-founder of Puzl co-working right now in Sofia, but expanding, and she will tell more about it. So ladies, I would like to ask you briefly to introduce yourself, mainly saying what you're working on at the moment, and especially telling us about your community, how it is right now, and what you're doing. So I'd like to start with you, Michala.
Thank you. Hello and good morning to everyone. My name is Michala and I'm coming from Bratislava, Slovakia. I run two co-working spaces which are founded here in Bratislava. I founded the first one, Coworking Europe, almost 5 years ago. And it was the first co-working space with a childcare center in Slovakia. We hosted 10 children and 10 parents and 60 or 70 other members who come to our co-working space without a child. So we did different kinds of community events. Some of them were meant just for parents and for their children, but we also organized lots of community events for the rest, for the adults, especially in the morning, like community morning, community breakfast, community coffee, and even also sometimes lunches, because all the people coming here were very family people. Usually most of the events were happening in the during the day. But then as the COVID came and all this pandemic situation, we had to close down the childcare centers. So now we focus more on adults, but still with this look as the young adults. So now we do lots of things, and we build community of social innovators, mostly young people beyond their 30s. So this is currently our community. Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you for being here. Now, Zsofi, please.
Yes, hi. Yeah, my name is Zsofi, and as you said, Kate, from Barcelona. Sorry. I'm currently the campus manager of Talent Garden Barcelona. And what does this mean? We have a very vast community in Talent Garden of 18 spaces in 8 different countries, and I manage one of them. We have a community that can host up to 300 members, and currently we are 200 people. And we opened last year this campus, so it's been a year that is open. The situation right now at the moment in Barcelona, it's everything is free, everything is open, and the life is going on as usual, of course, as the new normal. So we are in a lucky position right now in Europe because we can still host events without any interference for life. We don't take that as a light thing, because we have other campuses and we can see the situation that happened in Austria that is in lockdown and other places. So we really enjoy that. In our community here, we have tech and digital innovators. And especially in Barcelona, we have a lot of food tech and travel tech companies. We focus mostly on, adults. I say that because Michala shared about children. I would love to host children, but in the future, maybe. And also we focus in the collaboration and the education, since we just last acquired Hyper Island, which is one of the largest edutech in Europe. So we are forever growing in Talent Garden. And yeah, we host 4 events every month here for the community. two social and two workshops so they can learn new skills. And that's it. That's about me. Thank you.
I wonder why there is so much food tech in Barcelona.
Yeah.
I mean,
and travel tech. Yeah,
and travel tech. It's like super spot on. Okay, Victoria, your turn, please.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Victoria from Coworking Community in Ukraine. It's our organization unites all of the coworkings in our country, and the idea came to me 1.5 years ago when I understood that I want to have an opportunity to work with everybody, but I cannot work in every space. I've been working in coworking industry in Ukraine around 7 years, though I started from communities, and we talk about it a little bit later. But then I understood that each community has a sport, and I've worked with around 7 or 8 brands, different brands. And then with the idea to unite everybody, we have an aim to support coworking communities who already are existing, to support those who want to start their coworking business, to help them, to educate them. We also make market researches to understand what is the state of this market in Ukraine and widespread the best practices from all over Europe and the world. So this is in a nutshell about me.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Zsofi, please.
Hi, guys. It's super nice to be here with you on this panel. I hope that we're going to have a very nice and fruitful chat. I'm Zsofi. I'm from Puzl Coworking. We are an IT-only coworking community, currently with around 1,000 members in Sofia. The company is 6 years old, so let's say that we managed to grow every year in space and in member numbers. And currently we are focusing on expanding the business to Hungary, Budapest. So I am currently based in Budapest, and I'm currently focusing on this growth. So we can manage to open the coworking next year. We have a very, very vibrant community, let's say, in Sofia. So I really do hope that that I have some takeaways on, how to manage such a big community as they are growing, and people are also growing up in the community.
I like that. It's very true. People really grow up in the community. It makes such a difference. Thank you very much for introducing and telling us a little bit. So I'd like to get this panel started. So all of you have mentioned about community. Some of you have already mentioned about belonging. And I think the two words go hands in hands, but both of them don't really just happen overnight. Sometimes they happen quicker, sometimes more organically, sometimes it's a laborious process. So I would like to start with Victoria, actually, and I would like to ask you, in your opinion, or in what you've seen actually from your community and from your togetherness of all the co-working spaces, what are the tricks and tips that to encourage really interpersonal contact between members who perhaps for some reason they might not feel that the co-working is actually being together as a community, but they feel it might just be sharing a building and that's it?
Thank you for the question. When I was preparing, I had another answer, but now when you were asking, I just have one word. It's a real connection to show that you are to create the events, the talks, but it's not just something artificial. You cannot create event and think that something magic will come. When you create an event or the breakfast for the community, you show that you're connected and you're interested in it. For sure, events is maybe the most used instrument, but there are others like happy birthday cards or just nice words, texts, etc. But nothing would work if you do not put your soul in it and you do not really believe that this is something you create and you do it with a connection. Either a CEO of a coworking community manager anybody. I think it's a specific type of people who want to connect, who believe in these connections, and they believe that something more can grow out of it. Because co-working, it's what? It's, yes, we work together, but usually there are a lot of cross projects born between the workspace members, and it only can be created when you do it with your open heart and open soul like Excel. So the main trick for me to share with you, it will be to do it truthfully and with your sincereness.
So, Sweli, I can see you're nodding, especially when Victoria said something. Would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think Victoria said it very well. It's just like it needs passion. We need passion to show that we have this energy to bring to the table for the community. So I totally agree with you, Victoria. I was just agreeing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much. I also think that's very important. But is there any? I was wondering. This is open to all of you as panelists. Is there anything that maybe, you know, when you have someone that really struggles, right, to get into the community feeling, and sometimes they just walk there and they just come into a space because they think all they do is just renting a little bit of a space, and they don't really get maybe the community feeling and spirit. I mean, when I used to run a co-living space, those were the members I used to love the most, because they were always a bit of a challenge. And I always thought, well, if you decide to come into a place which is a co-living or co-working, you kind of like know what you are getting. I just maybe need to, I don't know, I don't want to use the word educating, but in a sort of way, I think we also do kind of educate people about the importance of the community and how give and take is very important. Is there anything in particular that you think we can do, you know, to incentivize that even more?
I have an idea. You need to bring in some food because food is usually the thing that connects people. It's most easier, most informal, most anything thing that you can do. Just get people together and go for a lunch together, or prepare some breakfast or whatever, and get people together around the table, and they naturally start to talk, start to get to know each other, start to introduce, talk about their work, and all of a sudden there's some cooperation, some connection coming in. So food, that's what I recommend.
So food, okay. So co-working equals food, I like that. It's my kind of environment. No, but on a serious note. So Michala, while we were just having this chat, I'd like to go back to a little bit of belonging and community. As I was saying before, I strongly believe they're both interconnected deeply. Well, as a co-working space, I think we also have the duty, maybe, if you allow me to use this word, but actually to develop a storyline, right? So that our members feel very connected with what we are saying and what we are doing. And, you know, do you have any tips, or how do you think it might be the best way to actually develop the right storyline, and what can we do with it?
I would say that our storyline is the way we act, or the way we behave towards our employees, but also towards our clients, our members. So we are trying to be as friendly and as open towards everyone who comes to our space. And I must say that it really works, that you can really feel this openness, and then welcomeness for everyone, and people feel really like being a part of a family. It's also connected with the children that we used to have here, because they naturally created this atmosphere of family, of belonging. Everyone was smiling, because you cannot not smile if there are children around. But even this atmosphere stayed, and even now when children are not here for this time, you can still feel it, that people still remember this very nice, this very familiar feeling, and they are passing it on new members. So even though, for example, that in these times we are not allowed to do as many events as we used to, people are still very nice to each other, still try to talk to each other, introduce themselves. So not anyone's not just not being talked to or like being left, because that's what we don't like and we try not to do.
And do you think, and again, this is open to all of you ladies, do you think as a co-working space or place, can we actually do without a story, the right storytelling that we tell really our members, and then we live by, so that our members will also live by?
I would like to share that I think the story comes with the co-founders. The world is so transparent with social media and everything, and everybody know who is eating what on the breakfast, that I do believe that the story of the co-working, it's something which starts from the founders or co-founders, which they share with the community, and the community supports it. I love the heart from Michala.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot create one story and the co-founder is from another story, because again, it's something which starts from a person who just has this idea, has this intention to do something, and then he spreads this idea to everybody, and the people and team members support him. So there should be some concept, yes, but it's again from inside.
I just want to step on that and completely agree with you, because the co-founder story is really integral to what kind of community you will be able to build, and it also becomes like the company culture one way or another, or the team culture, and that will just resemble with some people, and that's how you actually build a community that you kind of need to share the same values. More or less, because that's how a healthy community is built, and there's really not much else to that, to be honest. I mean, you can try different storylines, you can build up a brand that somehow is off, like not communicating your core values, but it's going to be very apparent that you are not walking the walk and talking the talk. So
I agree. Suli, I see you want to add something.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add something, because I'm not like disagreeing, but I don't know if I totally agree with the founders or the CEOs make the storyline. They make the foundation, yes, but as a community, like as part of a community of like more than 3,500 people in completely different locations, what I can say is that yes, the founders create the story of how they discovered the brand, or how they discovered the space or the community that they want to create. But then once you're in the space, the community and the storytelling develops itself. So it really is entitled to the people who is curating this community. For me, as one of the community curators here, I have to say that the vibe and the environment and the way they socialize here is completely different as the way they socialize in Madrid, and we are in the same country. I'm not going to say Austria, I'm not going to say Dublin or Denmark, because of course that's like a cultural difference. But here in Spain, within the same country, we have very different communities, because traditions are coming into place when we are creating this community. And they bring it themselves, and they bring their own personality, and we are curating this and creating a story together as we grow.
Yeah, I mean, one solution doesn't work for all, but I from a personal point of view, I think the storytelling, however it comes from the founder, because maybe it stays, let's say, let's put it into bracket, a smaller reality, or whatever you develop it, it's very important, because I think it's what makes me as well choose many of the other things. It could be, I don't know, anything from a fitness place to a holiday resort to anything, to a co-living space around the world, or anything else. I always want to see, will I fit in there? Will I belong? Will it be part of me? Is that really maybe like my value? Who is there? What kind of people go there? Who is who is that by? But anyway, I'd like to come back to you, Zsofi. And we were talking before about interpersonal relation, storytelling, as we just said, and we tapped into events as well. But I mean, I think all of the won't always be enough. And so I would like to ask you some of the best practices, perhaps, to install a feeling of being surrounded with peers, where you think you can have good fun, you can have business conversation, because all of these elements, I think they really, really help to strengthen the community very much.
So I do believe that we at Puzl are kind of lucky by choice, because we went into a niche of IT. So for us and for our community, it's very natural that they are surrounded by peers, because everyone is working in IT. Of course, in 2021, it's a little bit weird to say, like that's something special, because everyone is working in IT these days. But especially in Bulgaria, it really means development, right? So we have a very good education, very good IT professionals. So it's really, really hardcore, if I may say it like that. And so, that your business is surrounded by very similar businesses, maybe at the same stage, and we all speak the same language. I would even say that we have the same values, so I do believe that a lot of people would actually choose a co-working, not only by the culture, but also by let's say a niche that they go into. A lot of co-workings are focusing on designers. Some co-workings are focusing on IT. Some are focusing on digital nomads, and it really what you focus on. It really like underlines how you will behave in a co-working, and how you build up your operations, let's say. So I was really thinking a lot about this question when I was preparing, and I kind of figured out that there's like a huge background work that we all do that's not advertisable. It's not the fun part, of building a community, but you need to do it every day, so you can uphold the same structure or values for everyone as the community grows. Because of course, we all know that when you start with, I don't know, 30 members, 70 members. We started with 70 members, and it was 6 years ago, and like people were at a different age. Everyone was like 20 something. Everyone was hustling, like work hard, play hard. We were naturally partying a lot together after work. And then their businesses, and they started to mature a little bit. So people started growing up. So very naturally, and also with the community growing, we kind of needed to adjust how we do the community work. Because people simply didn't want to stay after work so much anymore. They started having families. So we also, like as your community is growing, you also need to like shift a little bit your focus. But I do believe that installing, like a feeling of openness and transparency, which I think is very, very important in the community. You need to have like a good onboarding process. So everyone who is newly joining the community, they are getting onboarded to the same thing. So it's not like you're like trying to support them in their first week of like finding the printer and knowing where is what. If you have like a very good onboarding process, the basics are taken care of, so you can take the next step and start focusing on integrating them into the community. Again, values, I think it's something very, very important. You need to have the same values, like constantly, and be fair with everyone, and not, like not distinguish people in the community. We are there, like we are at the same level, and this comes which I find it very, very important, is that us, let's say, operators, and I don't really like that word, but co-working managers, I don't know, community lead.
Yeah. What are we? It's like, I don't like this because it sounds too commercial. I don't like that because it sounds like a title. What am I?
Exactly,
so true.
Because you're building a community. That's what a co-working business is. But you also have like a real estate business under you. So it's like a really, really big complex package. But as your community is growing, more and more different size of businesses are going to come to the community. So you will have the freelancers who are renting, like single desks, and they will turn up at night. And you would have if you are in that business and you are growing towards this, companies that are actually scale-ups 50 plus people. They already have their own culture. So it's really like a chemistry of how you're able to look after all these different companies in their different stages, but every people in every company is very unique. So you constantly need to evolve with your community, and you need to have your thumb on its pulse, because it's naturally going to like grow. And for me, something is really, really important. If you do this background work, then people will feel safe to make the connections themselves. And some people will pop up, like the ones that would also want to participate in building this community, that will be your allies, doing so. So I really, really believe in this organic building of the community, instead of, like constantly like pushing them, like let's have fun, let's have cocktails after work, let's have events and stuff like that. But of course, when you have like a good base, then you can build on that, like have the proper events. If you're IT, then the meetups for the developers, or have networking nights for founders, or have like office hour sessions. But that's really like the cherry on top. But you need to do the legwork.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, organic, in my humble experience, obviously, I didn't experience everywhere. I didn't experience every places around the world, every spaces. Organic community is the best one. But exactly as you said, and Sweli, you also said something in the chat, so I'm going to read it back. But onboarding is definitely the key. And I mean, she types it in upper cases, which means like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I really, really believe in that. And I really think that, the organic growing of the community comes from an amazing onboarding and how you onboard it. So like when I used to run the co-living spaces, I would spend maybe 1 hour at least to chat to the person and to really explain to them, how the community works and what it was expected. That's into bracket, right? Not really expected, but if you want to join a community, we would expect, maybe to do this and for you to give this back, and this is how we do it. And I think introductions as well are very important. So every time a new member would come, for example, I would send out a message to introduce it and say, okay, so next week, Katerina is coming. She works for Salto. She does this in co-live. She's originally Italian. These are her passions. Obviously, together with the new member, I would be like, so this is what I'm going to write about yourself. I'm going to share your LinkedIn. I'm going to share your Twitter, whatever you are comfortable with. And people started to connect already before. So that by the time someone comes in, it's not like, oh, it's a new place. I don't know anyone. I'm just going to go. It's just like they are already part of it. Okay, Sweli, go for it.
No, sorry. I just really was saying the onboarding process is key, and what Zsofi said was about managing expectations as well. So creating the events that they know they're going to happen in that space, so they know that if they want to, obviously we cannot force people. If they want to, they can join, and they know what to expect from us. So this is and also finding ambassadors. Zsofi mentioned quickly, like we need to find people who also helps us develop this community, and it's important to, and they come up, and it's important to analyze or detect these ambassadors and encourage them to also, I don't know, motivate the other peers and motivate their peers to join these events. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go, Michala, go for it.
I
can
just
see your
wanted to-
hands. I can see your hands. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we even prior to onboarding someone, we send them this document to their email that where you can see what's our co-working codex, so you can read our values, what are the basic rules, how we work here, how we act here, and also some basic things about how we function. And this is prior, so they can see and they can still decide if this is what they want to come in and be a part of. So when they're coming, they already know basic things, and we even add more and explain everything here, of course, but they also know it before, so it helps.
Yeah, I think it makes such a difference. But so all of this one brings us to, like socializing. And I think for socializing within a space, there has to be spaces which are slightly more dedicated to this type of socialization as well. And I'd like to pick your brain on this, Swilly, and just trying to find out, in your opinion, actually, I want to talk to the opposite in a sort of way. So what do you think could be the risk of actually having nice spaces maybe, but not having any socialization within that space? And, because that really adds a lot of value to our members, right? And if we don't really implement that, what risks are there for us as a, how did you call us? Community experience creators, actually. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of risks that I think most of us in this panel agree. The fact that they don't see the value on the community, on what we do. That's one of the biggest risks. And if they don't see the value, they don't experience it, then they cannot, they probably don't continue, or they don't grow within themselves, and they probably go back to the old ways. But I mean, for us in Talent Garden, we of course we have the spaces, but we also try to create an online community where we don't really attach to a space, but more to the experience that we generate, to the services that we provide, the events that we provide, and the community that you can join. But in the terms of a space, I like to think of it, maybe if you allow me, as a house. So maybe most of us has had a moment in our lives or a phase in our lives where we shared an apartment with somebody we didn't know. And yes, so if we don't know these people and there's no a place where we can meet, like the living room or the kitchen where the food happens, it's very hard to socialize, and you end up just being by yourself. So it's a bit of the same in a community, in a co-working space. If we don't have the right location for them to do this, like a great kitchen for the community breakfast, or even like a small area where there's like places they can sit around and talk with each other and just relax, they will just go back to their desk and do their own work and think about what they're doing and not really interact with the community. So it's important to allow the spaces to be there for them to do that. And it's difficult to make them leave their desk and make them join these spaces. But I mean, we all have to have a break every now and then. We all have to go for a coffee. We'll have to go for a walk. So what I like to do with the people, so they know that we have the spaces and they know that they can join, is I catch them in these little moments and I say, hey, like, what are you doing? Well, how's your day? And starting a small conversation and be like reminding them, hey, do you know, we have this space and we have these events going on. So it's a constant word of mouth. And as Zsofi said before, is doing the legwork, which is walking to them, talking to them, because sometimes they don't want to leave their own space and they don't even have the time to leave their own space, but it's a good thing to remind them that they can.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So we are community experience creators / mothers, sisters, social worker support, you know,
HR,
everything, HR, everything, right? It blends into anything, definitely. Anyone that is creating communities have my biggest respect, because it's such a such a difficult thing to do. And actually, talking about this, I would like to ask you a question actually with regard to community building. And do you think, this is open to everybody, but I'd like you, Victoria, to start, maybe to reply first. And do you think that community building is a social engineering, and so we can push it in a different way, or shall it always remain more organic?
I would say it's both. It depends how much time and background you have, because even creating a coworking, it's for sure easier when you have a community behind you and people are just like waiting for some spot, for some real estate place to meet, and then it happens easier. But I think it's both, and it depends on a lot of things, the percentage of it. The organic, it's important, but if you're not pushing and if you're not doing the leg work, I love it. If you're not doing and pushing and talking and creating events, breakfast, etc., it would never go. So if I would say that what is more important, I would say the second is important, because you can do it if you're pushing it in also organic and a nice natural way. But the communities which are maybe organic, but they don't have the sport, they don't have a co-working or some place to meet, it's hard for them. They're looking, they are going to different cafes and restaurants, etc. And the maturity of community, I think, when they come to some of the steps, then they need a place, and then when it's easier to have the co-working or by their hand.
Thank you. Go, Michala. I can see your hand.
I just wanted to add that I think that in the beginning, it's important to kind of organize it and make it by you. And then when people learn and get to know each other and start maybe going together for lunch with you, then maybe once when you got sick or go to doctors and don't come, then you're like, oh, are we coming to lunch too, maybe? And they just organize themselves even without you. And this is when this happens, then you can be just like, oh, such a good work. So yes, in the beginning, you probably need to help it and then just leave it on them.
So do you think maybe connections then can be self-produced in a sort of way, in a more dynamic way? And how much can one bet on that? As in, can you rely on that, or do you still need to incentivize that quite a lot? And probably
it also depends on the people. If you have some, let's say, extrovert in the community, then usually you can rely on them, that they will push this community together. When they are mostly introverts and people who are super busy, then you probably need to help them a little bit more.
And what do you think about that, Zsofi?
Well, I just remembered our vegan lunches in the Sofia community and how big it grew. But I was originally organizing it. And when I left Sofia and I came back to Budapest, the whole team that was gathered around this idea that we are eating vegetables and yay, it just, you know, it kind of like dissolved that initiative. But people remained friends who met on those lunches, and they went on doing very different things afterwards. So I think it's also very important for community managers to understand that your community is not, it doesn't have an end, you know, and you don't have an end goal. It's always going to change, and sometimes it's going to be hurtful because they are not going to be so responsive. and something will, you know, spark and happen, and the community will very naturally, you know, like start to grow itself into a different direction, or form like little sub communities, which I also think it's fine until it's within, you know, like your values, your culture, your direction. So it's all, your expectation also needs to be managed, I guess. So it's like vice versa. And at the end, we cannot forget that people come here to work.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
At the end of the day, and I especially see this with the IT community, like major introverts, you know, maybe sometimes the best that you can do with them is just to leave them alone and create, and you just be there when they need you.
Yeah, I like that. That's a very nice way. And I think that's another skill that as a community experience creator, we need to have, is just really to interpret, you know, who we have and what they want. But so I'm very conscious of time, and also I've been reminded that we are already running out. But I would like to close this. First of all, I would like to thank you, obviously, but I would like to close this panel with the last question, and I would like to address it to you, Sully. It's for everybody as well, so if you want to tap in, but we spoke about storytelling, value, community creator and anything, but what do you think it's the best way to actually communicate about what we are creating and about your community to the outside, so that, you know, the right, if you allow me to use this terminology, members, or the most suitable members to what you want to do, will be attracted to your space?
So yeah, it's a difficult question. So how we want to communicate this? Well, we always have our communication team, of course, that works together with the campus, who gathers a lot of the stories that happens. But our story is told by the members. So we like to tell a story from the members' perspective. So when people try to understand who we are, they tap into what our members are saying about us. And I think it's very up to date, and what most people are trying to do right now, is using their community to speak for them.
That's very nice. I like that. So it's more than using the community, is really involving, I guess, your community, because if they're there, they probably feel like they belong. So we're going back again to that sort of belonging feeling. Yeah, I mean, I've been told that we have to wrap up, and I'm really sorry, but I think we should do another time. Again, I really enjoyed my conversation. I hope you did too. I got so many key takeaways, and I also would like to thank you very much for helping me organizing this. Thank you for the heart that I can see sending over. I really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to do more of this and to more women in co-working.